"You're exhausted and boring. I need to feel something." She said it while checking flights on her phone, thumb circling Bangkok like it was a reward for endurance. Her tone wasn't cruel, it was casual, like reading off a menu. I just nodded. Didn't ask who, didn't ask how long, just stood there, still holding the key fob from the night shift. She didn't look up. "You've spent more time with my parents than I ever did," she added, like a punchline. I walked to the kitchen, poured the coffee out, didn't speak, didn't look back. "My name is Michael Rourke, 44. Night nurse at St. Vincent's in Louisville. I do 16-hour shifts, 7 days straight sometimes. 12 years ago, I was Army Medical Corps, Kandahar, Ramadi, Mosul. Got good at fixing people who didn't want to be fixed. I paid for her father's chemo, stayed awake in folding chairs during radiation, cleaned his wounds when the hospice nurse bailed, paid the bill when insurance balked, sold my grandfather's boat to cover a round of treatments. Never told her. When her mom collapsed last fall, I drove her to every appointment and never left the ER until someone spelled me. No one else offered. She used to cry when I got home smelling like antiseptic and burnt nerves. Now she just says I smell tired. We haven't slept in the same bed in 4 months. She said it was about energy. "Your heaviness makes the room feel small," she told me once. Tonight, her perfume lingered on the hallway light switch, one I'd installed during a night off I didn't take. I walked to the laundry room, tossed my scrubs in the washer, still stained. My back was tight from lifting patients with no orderlies around. My knees ached. But the pain felt cleaner than what I saw in her eyes now. Vacancy. On the table, lined up like poker chips, were 6 credit cards. Her name on each one, all tied to our joint accounts. I logged into the bank app. 1 tap at a time. Canceled. All 6. I didn't hesitate. I didn't do it to punish. I did it because there was nothing left to preserve. Then I printed the latest bank statement. 90 days of withdrawals, transfers, indulgences. There were charges I recognized. The dinner she posted on Instagram. The spa she said was part of a healing workshop. The necklace she claimed was gifted. I kept scrolling and stopped. There at the bottom was something that didn't belong. A transfer, large, unfamiliar. The recipient's name wasn't hers, wasn't family, wasn't domestic. The metadata didn't line up, not with her devices, her usual times, her location patterns. It wasn't her. I refreshed the statement. Still there. Someone else had accessed our shared login. Someone she trusted, or someone who had access she didn't realize she gave. I didn't touch my phone. I didn't call the fraud line. I printed the page, folded it once, and slid it into the black folder under the tool cabinet in the garage, the one with my service papers, old VA forms, and the letter my father wrote me when I left for basic. I added one more thing to the folder, a handwritten note that said, Section 9B, confirm with Connolly. She wouldn't know what that meant, but I did. The hallway was dark now except for the soft hum of her diffuser. Eucalyptus and entitlement filled the air. Her silhouette passed by the bedroom door, light and weightless. She thinks this is the end. It's not. Not yet. I walked outside, locking the door behind me. No sound, no dramatics, just cool air and silence. I sat across from the pharmacy like I do after long shifts. From there, I could see the bedroom window of our condo, the flicker of her laptop, the silhouette of someone planning something she assumed I'd never notice. I pulled the bank statement from my jacket, read that last line again, ran my finger across the numbers. It wasn't her, and it wasn't small. We met at the hospital. Her father had been admitted for a collapsed lung, 3rd complication in 6 weeks. I was on night duty, rotating trauma and oncology overflow. She was the only one who stayed past visiting hours, brought her own blanket, slept in the plastic chair, never asked for anything. The others, cousins, friends, neighbors, came for 15 minutes, brought flowers, and left. But she stayed. Every night. Back then, she still had the quiet in her. I helped change the dressings, managed his pain meds. On day 4, she said I had the hands of someone who didn't flinch easily. I said I'd seen worse. She laughed, the kind of laugh that sounded like she hadn't in months. 2 weeks later, she brought me coffee. The next night, she brought 2. On the third, she asked if I'd ever been to the cliffs in Santa Barbara. We were married 9 months after he passed. She said I was the first man who made her feel safe. Said I was still, not stagnant. That I made things quiet when everything else was loud. I didn't know then how much she needed the noise. Her mother never liked me much, not because I was a nurse, but because I wasn't someone you could dress up and parade. I didn't have the voice for cocktail parties or the posture for fundraisers. But her father, George, he respected me. He once told me, "You do the kind of work that shows up when no one's watching. That counts." I drove him to every appointment, even when he could barely sit upright. Sat beside him during chemo. Took notes. Made calls. Ordered the wheelchair when the VA dragged their feet. When the bills came in faster than her mother could stack them, I liquidated a savings bond I'd been sitting on since Iraq. She cried when I told her. Said no one had ever done that for her family before. We bought a small house in a quiet street, 3 rooms, a porch. I rebuilt the kitchen myself on long weekends. She painted the hallway yellow. Said it reminded her of childhood. Then her mom got sick. Same routine. Same grind. I stepped up again. Extra shifts, new treatments, second opinions. This time she didn't cry. She scheduled yoga retreats. At first I thought it was how she coped. She said she needed space to recharge. I understood. Burnout looks different on everyone. Then the new friends appeared. Wellness coaches, breathwork healers, people with curated lives and empty bank accounts. She started traveling more. Santa Fe, Sedona, then Bali. She posted things like, "You can't pour from an empty cup," while I was inserting IVs and changing bedpans. I still made her coffee every morning, still rotated the tires on her car, still fixed the garbage disposal without telling her how it broke. When I asked about the spa charges on our account, she said, "You don't get it. This is for us. So I don't lose myself." I nodded. One night, after her second trip in a month, I found a bill in the trash, $4,700 for a transformational intensive. When I brought it up, she smiled and said, "I knew you'd find it eventually, that's why I didn't hide it." I didn't answer. She leaned in, kissed my cheek. "You're still my anchor," she said. "But sometimes, I need the storm." 2 weeks later, I was restocking the med cart when one of the residents and a former Marine had tapped my shoulder. "You ever think of punching walls?" he asked out of nowhere. "Sometimes," I said. "Yeah, well, most guys would have snapped already, especially after what happened in Santa Barbara." I looked at him. "Who told you that?" He shrugged. "Nobody, just word gets around." I didn't respond. That night, at home, I found the photo again, the one from that trip. Her on the cliffside, smile too wide, eyes too tired. I sat with it for a long time, then opened the hallway closet. Inside an old first aid kit, buried beneath folded towels, was an envelope I'd never opened. Not even after she left it on the counter that morning before her flight. I held it for a while, didn't read it, didn't need to. I just said, "I never told anyone what happened in Santa Barbara." She came back like nothing happened. No apology, no explanation. Just tossed her bags on the couch and said the air in Bangkok was cleansing. She smelled like sandalwood and foreign currency. The next day, she posted a photo of a lotus flower with a caption about letting go of things that no longer vibrate at your frequency. The caption had over 300 likes. I just stared at the kitchen sink she never bothered to empty. Later that week, she invited someone over. "Just a friend," she said, "from the retreat." His name was Eli, late 30s, wore linen in December, and spoke like he read books he didn't understand. He didn't shake my hand, just looked around our living room and said, "This place has stubborn energy." I asked if he'd like water. He said, "No thanks. I only hydrate with intention." She laughed. Too loudly. That night, I found 3 new withdrawals from our joint account. One was labeled Holistic Consulting, Eli Hartwell. The next morning at work, Diana, one of the admin nurses, handed me a coffee and said, "Rough week?" I nodded. She hesitated, then added, "She said you've been off, that things at home aren't stable." I didn't respond. She left the cup on my desk anyway. Decaf. By Thursday, I got an email from the hospital's wellness director. "We've received concerns about your emotional regulation. Nothing formal, just a check-in." I stared at it for a while before deleting it. I knew exactly who had started the fire, and I had a feeling Eli brought the match. Friday night, I came home to another gathering. 4 people on floor cushions, incense in every corner. She was wearing white and speaking in plurals. "We believe suffering is resistance," she told someone. I stood in the hallway, listening to Eli explain how financial boundaries are sacred. He caught my eye as he said it. After they left, she told me they were planning a group trip to Costa Rica for healing. I asked if her mother's oncologist had signed off on that. She didn't answer. She just said, "You've become so transactional lately, everything is tit for tat. What happened to the man who used to sit with silence? He still sits. You just don't visit him anymore." Saturday morning, I drove to Glendale and met with Harris, the estate attorney who handled her father's living will. He hadn't heard from her since the funeral. I asked him to pull up the deed transfer on our house. Said I just wanted to verify something. He took a minute, then asked, "Did you authorize the account in the Caymans?" I looked up. "The what?" "Account in both your names. Opened 6 months ago. Initial deposit was just under $600K. I have the signed paperwork." He turned the screen. There was my signature. Only problem was, I'd never held that pen, not once. I didn't say anything. He printed the document, handed it to me. "It's clean," he said, "unless you want to contest it." "I'm not ready, not yet." When I got home, she was out. No note. Just a playlist left on the speaker. Track 1, Free to Roam. I didn't touch it. That night, I couldn't sleep. The envelope in the hallway closet had started whispering again. So I opened it. Inside wasn't what I expected. It wasn't from her. It was from her father. A notarized letter, stamped, dated 4 weeks before he passed. It was addressed to me. "Michael, I want you to have the house, the savings, the truck. You were the son I never had. I've made arrangements with Harris. Do what you will, but do it with your head, not your heart. She doesn't know how to protect what matters yet. But maybe you do." It was signed, GH, with quiet pride. She told me he left nothing. Monday morning, I walked into the bank like a man returning to a house after the fire. I asked for paper statements. Last 5 years. All accounts. The clerk raised an eyebrow. "All of them?" "Yes," I said. "Every joint, custodial, and offshore entry connected to my name." She clicked fast after that. Then I asked to place a freeze on our joint access. She said she'd need both parties. I handed her a notarized letter from Harris, signed weeks before he died. "Technically," I said, "this qualifies." By noon, I had 4 folders and 2 missed calls from her. I didn't answer. That night, I saw her new video. She sat in front of a white wall, no makeup, wearing that same linen wrap she brought from Thailand. The caption read, "My truth." In the video, she said she'd been emotionally neglected for years. She said, "I weaponized silence." She said, "I used money as control." And then she started crying. Some people only love you when they're building you, but once you grow, they panic. The comments poured in. "She's so brave. Men like that don't deserve peace." I read every one. Didn't flinch. I just wrote down the timestamp where Eli appeared in the background, shirtless. The next day I met with another lawyer, not Harris's firm, someone quieter. He scanned the folders, nodded slowly and said, "She's not stealing. She's preparing to make her version the only one that survives." We started drafting a timeline. Back home, I checked a box in the garage marked taxes, parents. Inside were receipts, flight confirmations, check stubs. A first-class ticket to Zurich, charged to the card under her mother's name. She was in Aspen that weekend. I remembered because the dog sitter called me when she didn't come back for the handoff. I copied every document and emailed it to my lawyer under a subject line, chess, not poker. Wednesday I saw Eli again, Whole Foods parking lot. He walked right up to me while I loaded bags into the truck. "Just so you know," he said, "things are already in place. You can keep chasing shadows, but the house you're standing in, it's made of glass now." I didn't respond. He smiled, tapped the truck, and said, "Looks like leather, but it's just stitched ego. Good luck, man." He walked off holding oat milk and matcha. That night, the garage was empty. The old truck, her father's, was gone. I called the tow companies. Nothing. Then I checked the DMV. She'd sold it 2 days prior. She used a power of attorney we'd signed 3 years ago, when he first got sick. I printed the transfer slip. Her signature was fresh. Mine looked photocopied. She knew I wouldn't look there. Until it was too late. Thursday morning, I got a letter from the California Registry of Wills. It wasn't a notice, it was a courtesy copy. Apparently, there'd been a new filing, a revocation of prior testament, replaced by one naming her sole beneficiary to the Santa Barbara property, filed from an address in Ojai, witnessed by Eli, dated 2 months after her father passed. My hands didn't shake, but the floor under me shifted. That night, the doorbell rang. No one there. Just a small brown package on the welcome mat. No return address. Inside, a single item. A key. Old. Brass. With a blue plastic tag. Handwritten. SB House. I stared at it for a long time. I still had the original key in a drawer upstairs. I never told her I kept it. She left that house 3 years ago. She was never supposed to have that key, and she sure as hell wasn't supposed to know I did. I drove to Santa Barbara before sunrise. No playlist, no coffee, just asphalt and silence. The house looked smaller than I remembered. Paint peeling, mailbox leaning, the way things do when no one loves them. Inside, it smelled like cedar and dust. I walked straight to the master bedroom closet, behind the baseboard panel I'd screwed in 12 years ago. I pulled it loose. Inside, a weathered folder wrapped in wax paper and a cassette tape with his handwriting. "If she ever lies about what I left you, I'll play this for your lawyer." I didn't play it. I didn't need to. The signed will was inside, witnessed, notarized. The house, the investments, the truck, all left to me. Not her, not both, just me. It was dated 28 days before he died. She'd filed a newer version 2 months after. She thought he hadn't planned for her. Truth was, he'd planned for her too well. By noon, I was back in the city handing the packet to my new attorney. No ceremony, no monologue, just the documents, the tape, and a single phrase. Make it clean. The filings went through on a Tuesday, quietly. By Friday, her accounts were frozen. The Santa Barbara deed was placed in litigation hold. The Cayman transfer was flagged for investigation under fraudulent execution, and the old truck, the one she'd sold with a forged signature, was now evidence. I didn't hear from her, but Eli did. He sent a message through Signal, short, evasive. "We can resolve this without conflict. Let's find a higher frequency." I didn't respond. I just texted back, "Not my energy." The next morning, my attorney asked if I wanted to pursue criminal charges. Fraud, falsification of legal documents, identity theft, civil damages. I asked if it would make anything quieter. He shook his head. "No." "Then no," I said. He blinked. "You're letting her walk?" I smiled. "I'm watching her leave." He leaned back in his chair. I could have sued. I could have posted the truth. I could have taken her apart. I stood, buttoned my jacket. That's why I didn't. That evening, I drove back to Santa Barbara, parked outside her mother's duplex, left a small package in the mailbox. Inside, one brass key, one envelope. The key was to the old house, the one she thought she still owned. The envelope contained a notarized copy of her father's original will. No note, no insult, just closure. And on the back of the envelope, I wrote the last thing he ever whispered to me. Don't correct her. Just show her what it costs. 3 months later, I lived in a rental above a hardware store. 1 bedroom, clean kitchen, no framed photos, just tools, invoices, and the smell of varnish. I worked 2 nights a week at the hospital. No more doubles. No more overnight shifts. I trained the new guys, taught them how to hold pressure on a vein without panic. Diana dropped off a box last Thursday. HR says they want you to lead the trauma simulation next quarter, she said, placing it on the counter. You don't have to, but they asked. I nodded. I'll think about it. She lingered, then added, they trust you. I didn't answer. I just took the box and closed the door. Inside were my old uniforms, still pressed, still smelling faintly of iodine and eucalyptus. I didn't hang them. I folded them, sealed the box again, and slid it under the bed. Every morning I made coffee the same way. No machine, just stovetop, metal filter, ceramic mug, black, 1 sugar, stir once. Then I'd sit on the back steps and listen. Not for voices, not for music, just for silence that stayed. Most days I opened the same drawer. Inside, the tape from her father, the one I never played. Next to it, a brass key I never used again. I thought about mailing them back. I didn't. Some weights don't need to move. Some truths are heavier when you keep them to yourself. I still saw Eli sometimes, on my feed, giving interviews, posting motivational nonsense about energy and rebirth. He always looked lit from the wrong angle. She stopped posting, for a while. Last I heard she was in Bali, retreat, healing, sound baths. I hoped she found whatever it was she thought I couldn't give her. I never chased peace. I just stayed where it was supposed to be. And waited. She kept chasing light. I learned to sit with shade. The gentleman's revenge isn't loud, but it's always personal. If this felt personal, make it personal. Subscribe now, and don't miss tomorrow's story.